Hey, Perrysby here with Doug Spurling in another episode of the Wealthy Gym Owners. And boy, this is gonna be a fun one because man, Doug, you knocked it out of the park with you guys pre-sale. So let's talk pre-sale for your brand new location and how you've basically gotten to, gosh, what, pretty close to halfway to capacity before you even open the door. So man, where do you want to begin?
Yeah, I mean, I would say let's start with the end in mind, which is capacity for this location. For context, we're anticipating, obviously, capacity in our industry is always hard. I don't have a perfect formula for it, but rough back of napkin, we're projecting somewhere around 125-ish clients, right? So definitely less than 150, and probably, north of 120. And that would give us, that kind of $500,000 top line, with hopefully netting 30% of that. So that's kind of what we're striving for when we set our pricing, and when we kind of reverse engineer our pre-sale. So our pre-sale, was basically centered around a handful of things, and the way I would think about it is like with our clients in Project 500 and Boardroom, I have them follow a monthly marketing plan, and I basically just built out a monthly marketing plan on steroids and said, I need everybody in this town to know that we're opening. And that was the other piece of context was, we had our first location for 12, 13 years now. But this was the brand new town that we were going into. It's about 25 minutes north of our first location. So far enough away where, the average person, there were a handful of people that kind of knew our name from our first location, but we didn't have brand awareness going into the town. Josh or I do not live in the town. We didn't really have any, we just knew the market. It was a good market fit. So as far as the pre-sale goes, I would say the foundation of it was building a urgency around or some scarcity, some urgency, some kind of red velvet rope around these founding members, right? So because we're opening a new location, we want to have these founding members. So we created a founders membership, and basically what that gave them was some perks. And that was things like they got 20% off for life. So we, between the gym owners and I, we obviously priced high enough to factor that in. Like any good retail does, if you don't know, they price higher knowing that they're going to discount, right? So we priced higher knowing that those initial founding members are going to get a lifetime discount. So they got their discount for life, no enrollment fee. And the biggest thing that was really helpful for them is, for both sides, is they got 2 weeks free. Now they still had to sign up for the founding membership, but that is a really important thing that at first I was like, oh yeah, first 2 weeks free, no big deal. But that became really important in the sales process, and I think was a big part of the pre-sale was, um, there was, I think the biggest objection we had to overcome was risk, right? It's a, to many people, it's why would I sign up for something that's not even physically open? There in the beginning, there was even nothing physically to see, no construction, nothing. And yeah, we had the history of the first location, but other than that, it was very much going out on a limb. And so the way we structured it was, they would put a deposit down to hold their spot, a 2 week deposit, and they would get 2 weeks for free. So essentially, they're front loading their first month, right? It's 2 weeks for free plus the 2 week deposit. So those two things were really, really important because one, we did collect a deposit, so it wasn't like they didn't have any skin in the game and just holding a spot for them. But two, we could say, hey, within the first 2 weeks, you're going to come in. It's only going to be founding members. So there's some VIP-ness to that. Groups are going to be small, right? We run small group already. So there's only going to be a max of 6. But in reality, with only 50 clients, there's probably only going to be, and this has come to be true, about 2 or 3 people in each session, right? So lots of extra attention, not overwhelming to this market, which is very important. So that was kind of I guess the core offer going into the promotion plan.
So You guys have gotten to a point where you're above 50. Um, you know, all right, so you've done a mix of Facebook advertising to a landing page. I mean, you had kind of a sweepstakes type offer. You've done some grassroots stuff locally. Do you want to maybe spend a couple minutes on each of those types of things and anything else?
Yeah, yeah. So I wanted to start with the core offer because that basically the way I think about it is, or thought about it with this, and really think about it for any training gym is every month is like, what is your core? What is the core thing you're trying to promote out, right? And then you're going to have all these different distribution channels, right? So certainly running paid ads was a significant play for us, and so, we were spending a large chunk of change on paid advertising to drive people to, in the beginning, it was a sweepstakes play where they got to enter for a 3-month membership. And then once we ran that for about 4 weeks, we switched to just simply the founders membership and joining the wait list for the founders membership and used the 50 spots. As that decreased, we would go in, and credit to Josh, he was really on top of this. Literally, all of our ads and emails and texts, every time we sold like one or two more people, he would go in and change the number. So it was a legit dropping number. And when you think of like, many buyers, I would maybe argue all buyers are going to see things multiple times before making a decision. And so if you're seeing the same ad over and over again, even a small detail like starting at 50 spots and now seeing 44 spots and now seeing 35 spots, now seeing 27 spots. Eventually, for the people that are on the fence and they continue to, if that was never updated, it's a small detail, but that was continually updated throughout as we were decreasing, and we did hold true to the 50 spots. It wasn't a false urgency or a false scarcity. So certainly paid advertising for sure. But I think maybe more importantly, not to say that paid advertising wasn't extremely beneficial, but I think that kind of has some degree of the easy button associated with it nowadays. Um, the grassroots stuff became really, really important. So we did gift baskets and raffles. Josh went to the biggest coffee shop in town and bought coffee for everybody one day, which I thought was a really cool strategy. Essentially assembled a bunch of, goodie baskets, for lack of better terms, and dropped them off to any business that was in kind of drivable distance of where our location was. And you know, really no ask, just went in and said hi, let them know what we were doing, and it collected a lot of information from them to see if we could be of help to them. Um, and then the other thing that was beneficial is we looked at, and I'm sure this is somewhat specific to this town, but every town has their version of this. Is we joined the Chamber of Commerce, and the just that icebreaker when we're trying to reach out to businesses because we're new in town, they don't know who we are. If we can say that we're a fellow chamber member, I think that helped break the ice a little bit. And so we didn't frankly get much benefit from the chamber directly, other than we got all the other members' contact info. And so using that as the why am I reaching out, other than it being new, that was helpful. Other thing we did is we found the big clusters of neighborhoods that had, like an HOA type setup, or they were gated communities and those kind of setups, and found there was somebody, whether it was the chair of the board or some of them even had staff on site for like activities. One actually within walking distance that everybody that signs, it's leasing places, but everybody that signs a new lease gets a welcome bag. So we were able to make sure that going forward, everybody that gets a welcome bag when they sign a new lease for their house, our information is in there. So I just think a lot of the grassroots stuff. I always think of this as like the omnipresence, where maybe they inquired through the ad, but they're also seeing our stuff at the businesses they visit. They're also seeing our stuff, around town, not just digitally.
So, the pre-sale side of stuff, I think sometimes depending on how far out you start, the trajectory can be a little hockey stickish or whatever else. I mean, talk about how long you guys did this and what your trajectory looked like.
Yeah, so we did a pre-sale for about 3 months. So the first month was the sweepstakes play, which generated a significant amount of interest, and we certainly did get some on the back end of that. Obviously, if you're not familiar with that play, one person wins it, but then everybody else, you have the ability to follow up with them. So we did get an initial, I think it was 10 or 12 founding members out of that play. And then month two was definitely that kind of like plateau that we had to overcome, right? Because there was no longer the cool enter to win a 3 month membership. So that wasn't as enticing as an offer. We spent a lot of time, fine tuning our copy and you know, um, another lesson that I just thought of is when I first started, like many of us, I thought that I had to be for everybody, right? So we offer all these classes. We offer all, hey, we'll help youth, we'll help adults. I train everybody. Everybody says that I train everybody from 7 years old to 70 years old. And one of the major things that we did is we hyper focused, hyper focused in our messaging and our copy, and everything is to the 50 plus crowd. Everything. That was the market that we decided to go after. It's funny. I was at one of my son's baseball games last night, and the assistant coach, who I've become pretty good buddies with, he comes up to me and he says, "I'm excited now. I just turned 50. I can join your gym." And it's just a good reminder for like, would somebody in their 40s be allowed to sign up? Of course. But just a reminder on like the niching down of your avatar in not only age, but more importantly, spending a lot of time on the the thoughts that are going through at that stage of life. For somebody that does not have fitness as a routine, what are the thoughts going in through their head, and really refining the copy on, of course, our ads, but also, in our emails and in our texts that went out. So that month two, we kind of spent, I would say, stuff's going out there. But it didn't have that surge that month one had. And then month three was definitely, I would say, I don't have it exactly, but let's call it, we were, maybe 25-ish going into month three. So basically the whole back half of the signups, the other 25, 30 came in that last final month. And that's obviously a sign, in my opinion, of repetition of marketing for sure. Like they had seen stuff now for 2+ months, but also they were now able to see the physical space. We had a fair amount of people just driving by and, slowing down and kind of peeking their eyes in the windows to see what's going on, just to make sure it's legit, I'm sure. So that was kind of that more the upward trajectory of the hockey stick came in month three.
Very cool. Well, I mean, obviously, I mean, you guys are at pretty much break even the day you open, which is pretty awesome. Are there any other pre-sale takeaways? Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of franchises allocate a pretty substantial amount, and for some of them, it seems like that's the only marketing that they help much with. Any other takeaways for pre-sale, especially for like independent business owners, guys that may not have that kind of backing?
Yeah, yeah. So, well aware that, if I was doing this 10 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to spend, I mean, for context, we were spending over $100 a day on ads. And so I didn't have that capital back then to spend it on ads. So I think, what I teach any gym owner, pre-sale or not, is like, if you don't, the smaller your ad budget nowadays, the bigger your grassroots stuff has to be, right? More emails, more texts, more business visits, and you don't, that stuff takes time. And so pre-saling, marketing in general is either time or money. And it's usually a combination of both, right? But if you have more money, then you don't probably have to spend as much time on the more labor intensive things. But if you don't have the capital to do the paid advertising or a high level of it, then you got to do more of the grassroots stuff. The other thing, and we can't skip past this because I think it's probably one of the most important things we did, is just a relentless, aggressive follow up. I mean, we generated, like I said, I think it was 853, something like that. I mean, just a boatload of leads. But that would have meant nothing if we never followed up with them, because there was a ton of people that inquired. I mean, we just had somebody, I think yesterday, the day before, sign up that inquired like way back 3 months ago and just wanted to see us, that waited until we were open. She's like, I inquired right away. I thought it was a good fit, but I wanted to see that you were actually open. So just a reminder of the power of follow-up, phone calls, texts, emails. I mean, we had Nick, our new head coach. He started a month before we opened the new location and did some training at our first location. And during downtime, Josh would literally just print out a list of leads for him, because he didn't know our softwares yet. He was still learning things, but he was comfortable with phone, and we gave him the scripts. And so he was just literally sitting there with a list of names and phone numbers and going down one by one, calling everybody. And of course, text, of course, email, but just a relentless amount of follow-up went into it. And I think that that certainly played a significant part in taking it from, yes, we generated a lot of leads, but more importantly, taking a percentage of those leads and turning them into, founding members.
Well, that's awesome. I think that it very inspiring, but also, I mean, again, this piggybacks what we talked about in the last episode, man. You can cover a lot of ground in 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, if you have your head down and focus. And if every day it's like, let's generate leads, let's follow up, let's drive towards that founding member goal. I mean, anybody can go take that same kind of mentality and grow their business pretty substantially in a short period of time, but you gotta have some focus.
Yes.
Well, man, I mean, you've unpacked a lot of stuff in 2 episodes. Appreciate it a bunch. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this as much as I did. And that's Doug and Pat with another episode of the Wealthy Gym Owners, signing off.